So, in the last week I spoke about the deepest crisis of European history, which formed the world we know recently. Basically, this was the crisis of the 14th century. A lot of names there are for this crisis. This is the deepest humanitarian crisis of European civilization. This is the turning point and the milestone between the modernity and the traditional feudal world. Anyway, this was almost the last slide in the last week, and the last week contained information about reaction of the contemporaries. Everybody agreed that this is the consequence of punishment of God. Therefore, the reaction was the scapegoating. Like recently, probably you remember the story of COVID-19, and a lot of scapegoat mechanism activated by crisis. And the second item, the defense, the form of the defense. The first form of the real defense was the quarantine. You remember on the first phase of the pandemic of COVID-19 was the first reaction, the quarantine. The second one, it's a real extenuation, a real weakening process of bacteria. And the last one, and this was the last slide, I remember, and I checked, a self-regulating family system. A contemporary somehow tried to slowing down on the time of crisis a fertility of society. And the key factor of decreasing of fertility was the age of first marriage. Why first? Because in the traditional time, very high the rate of mortality. Therefore, time by time, wife or husband died. Therefore, the normal structure of marriage, it's a lot of time if somebody survived quite a lot of life expectancy, remarriage a lot of times. Okay, look at the civilization, the form of the adaptation on the civilization level. Our contemporaries agreed that a feudal model, the traditional model, not able to making the condition of the survival. Therefore, launched since the 14th century the centralization, procedure of centralization. Two directions had in the contemporary history. The one part of the countries saved the feudal structure. What means the feudal structure? The feudal structure means self-sustainable political and economic units. Self-sustainable, small unit, independent one to other. And if possible, in the last week I spoke about some region of Europe, no tragical economic condition. And other one is a famine and hunger and the crisis. But no devices and no information that, for example, some area very high the price of cereals and the wheat and rye and barley, and other region eat with pigs, with animals, the surplus of production. Not by chance, the first journal which published in Europe named a Fugger journal. Fugger, it's a very famous German merchant family, which contained a journal of Fugger. Price. The price of different cities. Why? Because a trader able to decide which is the good business transport one or other cities, which profitable, more profitable activity, more profitable business offer for them. Therefore, the first journal, it was an economic journal, Fugger journal. It's a contemporary journal of Financial Times, for example. Good. The first direction, a centralization. For example, the most important the first centralized countries of Europe was France, was England, Spain, and Russia. And very surprising for the first point of view, but on the late Middle Ages and early modern time, Russia was one of the most centralized country, whole of Europe. And the other direction, it's a traditional model. It's a decentralized country, like, for example, Naples, the Spanish Naples, and Poland. Not by chance, on the 19th century, Poland disappeared from the map of Europe because divided three parts. One slice received by Russia, other one Austria, and the last one Prussian kingdom. Okay, two directions. Centralized country, this was the higher chance of recovery, and other one, a feudal system, it was a right way for decline, economic and political decline. Okay, form of adaptation. On the time of Black Death crisis, decreased the number of population. 1/3 of contemporaries died. Each third people died on the time of humanitarian crisis. In consequence of that, the salaries increased. Therefore, quality of life, living standard compare in different century. In the close century, the highest living standards produced the 20th century. Nobody surprised. Because this is the time of very fast modernization, industrial revolution, urbanization, everything. You know the story. But the second one, the second highest living standard produced after the Black Death. Why? Because the quantity of work is quite steady, but the population decreased, therefore the survival necessary paying very high salary. How we can compare the living standard of the 20th century and the 15th century? There is the basket of consummation. Probably you know this term, basket of consummation. How many proportion of the salary used for lodging, for example, used for staple foods, and use it for entertainment and saving? And if compare, for example, the last 1,000 years of European civilization, the highest one is 20th century, but the second, not the 19th century, but the 15th century. In consequence of humanitarian crisis and the great loss of the working poor. Okay. In agriculture, adopted a lot of new plants. For example, in the traditional consummation, it's very, very conservative. Very conservative. On the time of crisis, on the time of hunger, the people became open for the new plants. And on the time of crisis, proliferated in Europe Islamic origin, like rice, spinach, sugarcane, artichoke, eggplants, and hops on the northern Europe, and the flax spread across the continent. And you know the flax? It's very high, the nutrition content, one of the highest nutrition content. Okay, forms of adaptation. Very important, increase the speed of trade, introduced monetary unions, for example, like a euro in the modern euro. But the contemporary euro was, for example, the Venetian ducats, which applied large area, not only the Venetian Republic, but a lot of other countries even, and Florentine florin became international benchmark, increased the speed, not necessarily changing the currency one to other, because it's quite a high the rate of the loss. And organized each important region of Europe, regional and regular fairs for changing the surplus and earning a benefit. Some area decline in consequence of 14th century crisis, region decline and recover. For example, this is the age of great urbanization of southern and northwestern Italy, Castile. This was the forming. There is a Spaniard student. Okay, but this was the great period of recovery of Castile. Somebody know the French football, Spanish football? It's very important, the regional identity. For example, Catalonia, it's basically different to Castile. The Castile, the typical football club of Castile, this is Real Madrid. And as Johan Cruyff, very famous Dutch football player name, FC Barcelona, not a club. This is Army of Catalonia. Army of Catalonia. And a little bit similar situation, Athletic Bilbao. Athletic Bilbao. You know, in which minority there is behind the Athletic Bilbao? Somebody know? This is my guess. A Basque minority. A Basque minority. Therefore, it's very important if some minority would like to be proud. And a little bit same situation in the Hungarian Premier League. Somebody know which Hungarian, I asked firstly for Hungarian students, which Hungarian football club won the most gold medal in the Hungarian Premier League ever, until now? Which is the winner? Which Hungarian football team? You know the play of football? Everybody? What me? Okay, I hope. Which Hungarian football team? The record winner of... Nobody know. Ferencváros. Ferencváros. This is one district of Budapest, the capital of Hungary. And which minority living in Ferencváros? Old name is Franzstadt. Franzstadt. German minority. Therefore, one football team dominates a Hungarian Premier League, of First League, which founded by German. And which is the second one? Nobody knows. Nobody interested for football except me. I'm very proud. I'm playing recently in 5 football teams. I'm a goalkeeper. This is... Nobody knows. MTK. Who founded the MTK? A Jews minority. And very interesting, in Hungarian league dominated 2 clubs which founded 2 minorities, a Jews and the Germans. Very funny. Very funny. Okay, but turn back to the story. Turn back to the story. This is the great recovery of Castile, Holland, and southern Germany. Nuremberg and Augsburg, very famous trading cities. Okay, stagnated and declined the old center of European trading network, Flanders, Tuscany, Sicily, and Catalonia. This was a great decline of Catalonia. Okay, and developed, for avoiding the crisis, a great form of export of staple foods. For example, drawing roads of cattle export, for example, from Hungary. From Hungary, the cattle export dominated the late Middle Ages and early modern time to Czech area, to Vienna, to Venice, and to the southern German area, Nuremberg and Augsburg. The same happened in France, from Massif Central. You know Massif Central? It's a great, large French mountain area to the direction of Paris. Paris on the time was lived 500,000 inhabitants. It was a giant city on the time, and this is the same situation from Scotland and Wales to the direction of London. And urbanized not only the cattle export, cattle trading routes, trading highways, but the trading network of raw material like copper, iron, tin, and silver, salt, and the grain. How we can describe the crisis of 14th century? Stephen Robert Epstein, professor of London School of Economics, in a seminal study of him, summarized the most important knowledges about the crisis of 14th century. Look at his conclusion. The late medieval crisis is best understood as an exogenous demographic exogenous, because the exogenous factor was the bacteria, and in consequence of that, demographic shock which triggered, you know which is the trigger I spoke about, a trigger on the shotgun. It's a very moderate change, launch an interaction which not stoppable, unstoppable. Okay, triggered a process suite of institutional creative destruction. It's crucial term. It's crucial term if we try to understand economic history of Europe and larger scale economic history of the world. Why? Because sometimes the disaster opened a new way, new possibility of development, which happened on the 14th century. A 14th century crisis opened the way from feudal system, a lot of a scattered, self-sustainable, isolated, self-sustainable unit, opened the way for integration. Political integration, economic integration, social integration, therefore, on the way of modernity. Therefore, if we try to understand why became, to the modern time, dominating power of the world, Europe, this was one good reason. Because was able to find the good answer for the challenge of humanitarian catastrophe. Therefore, a creative destruction means it's destroy the feudal system and open the way for political, economical, and cultural integration. Okay, creative destruction that raised the West European economy to higher growth path, aligning incentive structure more closely with the exploitation of technological potential. You remember, I hope I mentioned, if compare in global scale, the position of European economy, it's very moderate, very, very moderate. You remember, the winner is China, as ever. The second one, India. The third one, the Muslim civilization. And Europe, only the fourth in international comparison. Only two indicators stronger compare each of other. The first one, a technological openness. You remember the story. The consequence of wheat production, low density of population, openness for technological innovation. First. And the second one, a sailing system. Much more efficient compared in international comparison. It's a long history. For example, from the Greek sailor, Roman sailor, and the Portuguese, Spanish, Venetian, Genoese sailor invented and accumulated these inventions. Therefore, very important, a cultural integration. And the European civilization was able to open the way for the cultural integration, the way the creative destruction, integrate these local inventions. Okay, these items close, but start a new one. I ask you patience for some minutes, seconds. So, okay. If we continue the story, 14th century Europe, at the turn of 14th and the 15th century, Europe was over the consequence, the basic consequence of humanitarian catastrophe of Great Plague, and started a reintegration, political, economic, and cultural reintegration. The first phase of modernity. And the winner of European modernization was one city which a little bit exceptional compared with any other city of Europe, Venice. Somebody visited in Venice? I suggest for everybody. It's exceptional. Not comparable any other Italian cities, not comparable any other continental cities, exceptional. Not by chance, when founded Venice was a part of Byzantine Empire. And the Venetian elite was a member of Orthodox Church, Eastern Christendom. And if somebody walking on the street of Venice, and it's able to feel the cultural influence of Eastern Mediterranean culture, not the Western, Eastern. Okay, look at the story. Why became Venice the first leading city of European economy? The basic reason that the territorial state, if we try to describe on the Middle Ages the state, two types of the state. Territorial state, like for example France, like Hungarian kingdom, like Poland, territorial state, and the other one, a city state, like Florence, like Genoa, like Venice, which is the basic source of income on the territorial state. Taxes of serf, a peasant, and 1/3 of potential taxpayer died. Therefore, the income of territorial state, like for example England, lost 2/3 of taxes. It shrank budget of the state, a little bit more in the case of Spain, but look at how many % lost by Venice in consequence of the humanitarian crisis. It's a 1/3 only. Therefore, the flexibility, endurance of the economic activity of the city-state much stronger from the challenges of humanitarian and the civilization crisis of the Black Death. Therefore, in comparison with the territorial state, a city-state became relatively much stronger. Why? Because the source of the budget in the case of northern Italian city-state, a trade, international trade. You remember, distributor trade of spice, and the consumer, potential consumer of luxury goods would like to buy after the crisis these spices. Therefore, relatively, the position of Venice improved. Look at the age of Venice, because we try to describe the history of European economy, which leading city dominated a European economy, and which leading city directed the elementary economic processes of Europe, and tried to organize economic world around and the outskirts of Europe. And the first leading city in European history was Venice. The former state, you remember, it's a bipolar structure. Northern pole, slow country with Baltic Sea, and the south pole with a lot of different North Italian cities like Genoa, Pisa, Amalfi, and Venice. And between a northern European economic pole and the southern economic pole, located the Fairs of Champagne. This was the central axis of high Middle Ages European economy. But the first leading city, which concentrated each form of the powers for direction of European economy, was Venice. Some word about the Venice. If we try to identify a Venice, it's made up 60 islands and islets. It's founded on the time of Age of Migration. No reliable sources, documentary sources about the story of foundation. Therefore, because this is the Dark Age, no information. And about the age of foundation of Venice, we have only legend. A lot of legend, but no well-based documentary sources. According to legend, the basic settlement, when constructed whole of the network of Venice on the lot of islands, founded by refugees from Aquileia. Aquileia, one Roman city, was on the northern coastal area of Adriatic Sea. On the age of migration, it's a quite safe place, was islands of northern part of Adriatic Sea. And very important, the basic seminar, the basic sentence which wrote on the shield of the city. The basic sentence of city, it's a Latin sentence, non ara, non semiat, non vendemiat. It means no plowing, no tillage, no sowing, and no sowing, and no harvesting. We are not a peasant. Why we are not a peasant? It's a very proud citizen declaration that we are not a peasant. We are citizens. Okay, look at majority of audience never visited in Venice. Therefore, may be very useful to see some picture, a short video about Venice. Very important because the history is not for example, it's that information, but the history. This is the collective memory of humankind, as I mentioned before. Okay.
Rising from the waters of Venice Lagoon is a place like no other, the Italian city of Venice. Once the world's greatest port, here protected from the swells of the Adriatic, Venetian merchants created an impossible city of incredible wealth. Long hailed as the most breathtaking city on earth, there is no denying that sometimes Venice can be overwhelmed with admirers. But if you take your time and treat her gently, she will reward you with moments of profound beauty and bliss. Most visits begin in the central district of San Marco, where you find one of the world's great squares, St. Mark's. Arrive with the dawn, and the piazza will be yours to enjoy, without the crowds. St. Mark's Square is surrounded by some of the city's finest architectural jewels, but there are none greater than St. Mark's Basilica, the treasure house of holy relics, from the body of St. Mark to the lock of the Virgin Mary's hair. St. Mark was known as Mark the Lion-Hearted, and everywhere you turn in Venice you see this proud symbol. Across from the Basilica stands the city's beloved bell tower, St. Mark's Campanile. Climb the tower to see Venice stretch out in all her marble and red-tiled splendor. Below the tower is one of the city's great landmarks, Doge's Palace. For centuries, this Venetian Gothic masterpiece was the seat of the Republic's power and prestige. Today, its courtyards, apartments and chambers are a museum, which celebrates centuries of Venetian achievement and glory. Just outside stand the columns of San Marco and San Teodoro, the traditional gateway to the city. Here, under the winged lion of Venice, begin your journey along one of the world's great aquatic thoroughfares, the Grand Canal. For almost 2.5 miles, the canal winds through Venice. It is her main artery, her lifeblood. Ride the Vaporetto dell'Arte and explore the canal's treasures at your leisure. Or ride in true Venetian style by gondola, which Mark Twain once called the gentlest form of locomotion ever devised. Near the canal's southern mouth rises the graceful dome of Santa Maria della Salute. Beset by plague in the 17th century, Venice turned to the spirit of Mother Mary for deliverance. The plague lifted, and grateful Venetians raised this new church in her honor. All along the canal, elegant palazzos, once the homes of wealthy merchants, slip by as if in a dream. The timeless wake of river traffic laps at their doorsteps, just as it has for centuries. Today, many of the palazzos are home to museums and galleries. Care Tronico allows visitors to experience the opulence of 18th century Venice. While Palazzo Grassi's bold restoration and artworks are the perfect reflection of a city that cherishes its past and embraces the new. Venice has a way of capturing art. In the 1940s, American heiress Peggy Guggenheim made their home on the Grand Canal. Today, her passion for Venice lives on through her incredible collection of modern art, which brings joy to the hundreds of art lovers who visit each day. Venice is known as the City of Bridges, many of which are works of art too. The Accademia Bridge links the San Marco district to the Accademia Gallery and offers some of the Grand Canal's finest views. The oldest of the Grand Canal's crossings is the Rialto Bridge. For over 300 years, this was the only way to cross the canal on foot, and today still stands as the grand gateway to the Rialto markets. Away from the Grand Canal, there are hundreds more bridges to explore, from the purely functional to the breathtaking. The most famous of all connects Doge's Palace to the historic prison. From the enclosed walkway, the condemned would capture one last look at their beloved city and sigh, hence the name, the Bridge of Sighs. Venice is a city to get lost in. So put away your map and let it surprise you. Follow winding alleyways that suddenly emerge into quiet piazzas and onto the steps of ancient churches. In the central area of San Marco, discover cultural treasures like the Teatro La Fenice, which despite being destroyed 3 times by fire, arose from the ashes each time, just like its namesake. The further you roam, the fewer travelers you see, and the more locals you meet. These are the places where the city surrenders its most intimate pleasures. When the city's embrace becomes too tight, there are places to catch your breath, like the waterfront promenades, or the sleepy canals and spacious piazzas of Castello. Venice was long the epicenter of European glassmaking. Fearing an inferno, in the 13th century, Venice relocated all her glassmakers to the island of Murano. 700 years later, the descendants of these artisans still create works of incredible delicacy and color. Further across the lagoon is another island famed for its color. The tiny island of Burano. Legend has it that fishermen painted their houses in distinctive colors so they could find their way home through the lagoon's falls. While here, shop for some of the island's exquisite lace, just as Leonardo da Vinci did when he visited in 1481. Venice has shone her light into the far corners of the world for over 1,500 years. And now, the world comes to her. Just remember, Venice smiles upon those who linger. So stay for a few nights, or stay for a month. and savor every sweet moment she has to offer.
Okay, I suggest everybody for travel, as I mentioned before, because without traveling, the people are not able to understand accumulation of history.
You see this
The
perhaps.
process of accumulation. Okay, this is the symbol of Venice. Some students remember walking on the street of Szeged, this symbol, the lion with wings, somewhere. Because in Szeged, one of the symbols of Szeged, similarly to Venice, not independently, the lion with the wings. Nobody. Go to the square of Dugonic, main building of university. On the upper corner, two lions with the wings. Two lions with the wings. And the other one well on Clausel Square. You're walking on the Cara Street to the direction of Széchenyi Square, the Royal Hall, and turn left, and there is one well with four lions with wings. Why? Which is the connection between Venice and Szeged? Somebody? Nobody. But it's very important because the founding bishop of this bishopry, Csongrád bishopry, one Venetian 1,000 years ago. It's named Saint Gellert. Saint Gellert. Therefore, the history of Venice and Szeged interwoven a little bit. Therefore, but it's very far, of course, but on the level of the symbol, in consequence of activity and the heritage of Gellert, survived until now, that even on the main building of Szeged University, it's two sculptures of a lion with the wings. Okay, turn back to the story. Turn back to the slide series. Okay. Look at the story of rising of Venice. If we try to describe why it became the leading city of late Middle Ages European economy, because it had two rivals behind and beside of Venice. Genoa, other part of the Italian peninsula, and Pisa. It's a quite strong rivals. A specialized city-state like Venice and specialized to the distributor trade. The first, as I mentioned, founder of the city, refugees who escaped on the age of migration, according to legend. No any documentary sources about it, only the legends. From Aquileia. The second one, it's very important, a heritage of Byzantine Empire. When founded, Venice was one city of the Byzantine Empire, and this is the reason of close connection of the orthodoxy of Christendom. Orthodoxy of the Christendom. It's a lot of conflict with the Pope, because the Pope tried to convert to the Roman Catholic. But the elite, the close elite, saved the Orthodoxy until the modern time. Moreover, the Byzantine Empire, on the time of Dark Age, early modern time, early Middle Ages, it was a corner of high civilization of the Roman time. And moreover, on the late age of migration, a Byzantine Empire was for Venetian, the big brother. A strong big brother saved the position of Venice. Okay, and the key economic activity for Venetians was a spice trade, a distributor trade, as described before. Okay, which was the strength of Venice? You know the SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, protection of the Byzantine Empire. This was the strength. The second one, defensible geographical location. It's an island. independently from the continental area, European continental area, quite far from the coastal area. Moreover, if we are looking the Adriatic Sea, somebody visited in the coast of the Adriatic Sea? It's a bag-like. It's a bag-like. And if we imagine Adriatic Sea, this is the Adriatic Sea, Adriatic Sea, location of Venice somewhere here. And if somebody would like to attack the city, necessary navigate on the entrance of Mediterranean of the Adriatic Sea, sailing on the coastal area with lot of islands, and arrive to the entrance of lagoons. Three positions are for defense. The first entrance. On the entrance of Adriatic Sea, locate and there is a crucial island. Somebody know which island close the entrance of Adriatic Sea? Recently, it's a very famous touristical destination.
Malta or Cyprus?
Corfu. You know Corfu? Somebody visited in Corfu? No, nobody. Okay, it's a Corfu. Not by chance, on the edge of leading position of Venice, the first step, it's occupation, conquering of Corfu. This is the key of entrance. Okay, free position of the defense. Geographical advance of them. And economic adaptability. Economic adaptability, sorry, it's very difficult word, mean each innovation adapt quite quickly. No Venetian innovation. Like, for example, in the IT sector. If we are looking, for example, recently, the leading sector of global economy, one of the leading sectors is IT. But look at the IT enterprises. No first generation. Only one, Apple. But any other, Microsoft and Samsung and Oppo, any other IT enterprises came from the second and the third generation. Why? Because to be pioneer, it's very expensive. Because some innovation, it's invest a huge amount of money and not able to work. This is the logic and the technology of Venice 6,000 years before. No innovation. Watching the Florentine, watching the Genoese, watching the Spaniard, watching the French, and adopt the technology which usable and feasible. Okay. And control and monopolizing, not only control, monopolizing the spice trade. And the crusade. You know the crusade. Crusade, this is the military campaign reconquering the Holy Land, the Near East. It's very important, because on that time, this was the most important enterprises, it's holy enterprises of the contemporaries, reconquering, and founded a crusade kingdom around Jerusalem. And the proportion of Muslim population and the Christian population very unbalanced. Because in the highest level of the Christian population on the time of crusade, 200,000. And the Muslim, 50 million. Therefore, for Christian, it was a bombarded fortress. It was very important invest and transport as supply, commercial supply, and for military needs, military transport for army of Jerusalem kingdom. Therefore, it was a great business for the city-state of North Italian cities. Not by chance, on the process of the crusade, during the process of the crusade, the city-state of Italy became very rich, because necessary transport the knights, the soldiers to the Holy Land, necessary transport, everything for army and the civil population, inhabitant of Jerusalem kingdom. A crusade. Crusade was a most important form of income for the northern Italian cities. You remember this slide only repeat southern part of European economy, Amalfi, Pisa, Genoa and Venice. This was the triad. And distribute the trade oriental spice, pepper, nata. Okay, it's over. Okay, look at the rivalry between Venice, between Pisa and between Genoa. First step, Pisa falling out from the rivalry because started one war between Florence and Pisa. You can see at the beginning of 15th century, this is the district, this is the province of Florence, and this is the province of Pisa. To the end of military campaign, Pisa disappeared because Florence and the Florentine army occupied. Okay, left only two candidates for the monopolizing of distributor trade of oriental spice. Okay, Genoa versus Venice. Look at the story. It's 1 century long war unfolded at the end of 13th century. Genoa wins the battle of Curzola. If somebody visited in the Croatian coastal area, recently named Curzola, Croatians name Curzola, it's an Italian version, on the middle of Dalmatian coastal area. Somewhere here. Okay, the second step, Genoa sees the Chioggia. Chioggia is the entrance of the lagoons, and this was the most critical even of the military campaign of Genoese because almost occupied even inner part of Venice. But Vettor Pisani recaptured the Doge. You know this is a republic under direction of governor, which we can transform to the modern term. A governor was a Doge. It's a prince, if translate directly to English. Recaptured Chioggia and destroyed the Genoese fleet. And this was the equal situation on the long war, and close the war, the peace treaty signed in Turin between Genoa in equal status. But the age of Venice started with Turin, peace treaty of Turin. Why? Because after this peace treaty, no city-state, no territorial state which was able to be dangerous for the leading position of Venice. And the age of Venice started with the peace treaty of Turin and closed until the end of 15th century. 1 century long period dominated whole of European economy by Venice and the Venetian trader. Not by chance, as I mentioned before, occupied 2 years later Corfu. Why? Because never would like to repeat some fate like happened 3 years ago on the time when Genoese fleet occupied even the entrance, inner part of Venice. Okay, and the next step, develop a large region around a city, occupied a continental part around Venice, occupied Padua, Verona, Brescia, Bergamo. This was the inner country of Venice. Good. And if we try to understand the trading activity of Venice, we can focus to this map. 2 directions of the distribution of the Oriental spice organized. The first one organized by commercial vessel through the Gibraltar Strait to northern ports of Europe, and a distributor trade in the continental area. 2 or 3 lectures before, I asked which nation was a sub-distributor of spice in Europe, a continental distributor. You remember? Somebody remember?
Spain.
Sorry, I am deaf.
Spain.
Spain? Spanish?
Yeah.
No. Distributed, which in the continental area of Europe distributed in small bags Oriental spice. Germans and Jews. It's very interesting and very important. Which is the meaning of history. Understand the old conflict between different traders, different nations. The rivalry between Jewish trader and German trader started even in the late Middle Ages. And much easier understand why hated so much each other. Okay, it's a long story. Good. For strengthening of Venice commercial position, that was very important weakening of northern economic pole. Northern economic pole is basically a low country, and southern part of England became weaker rival because based income to industrial production. The potential consumer, in consequence of demographic decline, decreased. Therefore, economic power followed the trajectory of decrease of consumer. Decreased demand for industrial products. Moreover, a luxury industrial activity moved to northern Italy. You know, for example, recently there are 2 cities in Europe which are the capital of fashion. Which cities? Milan and Paris. Milan and Paris. And the great career of Milan started when declined the northern poles of European economy. Okay, look at one story. It's quite an old story. Accused a doge, a prince, a leader, a governor of Venetian Republic with criminal activities. Criminal activities is stealing, of course. Therefore, on the legal process, describe each income of Venetian Republic. It's very interesting because in the traditional time we are modern people. A lot of information we describe and making a copy about it, making a photo about it. Therefore, our mentality avoid memorizing information. But if we travel back to the traditional time, for example, it's possible, I told to you that I lived in the last phase of traditional world in Hungary. For example, electric supply introduced my birth year to my village. And I remember the traditional man memorize unbelievable quantity of information. And in the Middle Ages, very rare that information it's described. Very rare. For example, the first reliable information about budget of Hungarian kingdom we have from 1498, almost the last year of the Middle Ages. Why? Because Zsigmond Ernst, who was the chancellor of Hungarian government, accused with stealing. Therefore, for legal procedure necessary to describe each information. Before not, the contemporaries memorized the information. The contract described, of course. But the elementary, unimaginable for us. Unimaginable. But the traditional people memorized a lot of information. You know, for example, the Celtic religion? Celtic. Who were the priests of the Celtic religion? Druids. No written version of the Celtic religion. The Druids, everything memorized. It's very different, the mentality of them for our customs, our norms. And when killed the last druids, lost the information. Lost the information. Okay, I turn back to the story of Doge Mocceligo, who stolen a little bit, and described the income, first time, described the income of Venetian Republic. Look at the most important item. It's a little bit boring information, but very useful. The conclusion from that. The budget of contemporaries accumulated 5 to 10% of national income. Recently, tax rate, somebody know, in Hungarian tax rate, how many percent of national income collect to the 40, a little bit more, 46, 45, this is the middle level. But for example, I visited in Norway with Erasmus 10 years before. In Norway, 68. But everything is free. Everything is free. Very high the rate of taxes. But in the United States, 27. 27. This is but the starting position of the government, 5 to 10 in the 15th century. And the budget of Venetian state, 750,000 ducats. Gross national income, the city estimated between 7.5 or 15 million ducats. It depends, we calculate 10 or 5 or 10%. Okay, the next item, next crucial information, with an estimated population of Venice was 150,000. Therefore, the income per capita, we estimate between 50 to 100 ducats. Population of commercial empire, you remember Brescia, Bergamo, Corfu, and any other colonies which occupied and conquered by Venetian Republic is 500,000 the population, and the national income 1,600,000 ducats. And the monetary flow, it's flowing through the Venetian economy 40 million ducats. It's very boring information. But why crucial if we try to understand the source of the success of Venetian economy? International comparison. International comparison. It's in number of inhabitants 150,000. Compare with, for example, France. Population of France 17 million. 17 million. Spain, it's estimate 9 million. 8 or 9 million. England, estimate to 4 million. And Hungary, it's estimate to little bit 3.5 million. International comparison, the economic power which concentrate to Venice, unbelievable, unbelievable. You can understand, for example, and the physical experiment, pushing some material in very, very tiny point. You're able to destroy. And the large surface, it's not able even moving, for example, this table. But Venice was a tiny, very high power, and was able to organize whole of European economy with the high concentration of monetary flow. Okay, next crucial milestone of Italian economy, minting of gold ducats. Former time, no minting of gold ducats in Europe. Why? Because the quantity of trade so moderate, not necessary. Silver coin is enough, and imported, for example, muslin ducats for the larger quantity of trade. But the intensity of economic activity of Europe in the middle of 13th century, reached the critical level and necessary start minting gold ducats. Look at which city-state was the first. Genoa, somewhere before the middle of the century. The second one, Florence, and Venice only the third. Never before, never the first, never pioneer, but the good practice followed. And how used the great richness by Venice and the Venetian political leader. The first one, city construction and reconstruction. Probably you listening on the newspaper and different electronic paper and journals that it's recently the position of the building of Venice it's moving down because the soil of the islands is very unstable. Very unstable. It was a problem, not recently, but even on the time of construction. Therefore, try to strengthen the soil with how the name is. It's a wooden material. It's a pushing down to the unstable, how the name. It's sandy surface. A lot of trees hew down from the mountain of the Croatian Dalmatian mountain area. If somebody traveled to Croatia, it's barren mountain, no trees. The first generation of the trees hewed down by Greek and constructed Greek ships and the commercial vessels. The next generation by Rome. And the last one, the last forest hewed down by Venetian. And unfortunately, in this surface, the making of the soil, it's necessary 100,000 years, and we have to waiting a lot of geological time span, long time. And therefore, city construction and reconstruction, it was very expensive. It import huge quantity of timber, materials, strengthen the soil, and so and so. The next one, maintenance of diplomatic network. It's borrowed and it was the heritage of Byzantine Empire. Everywhere founded a local embassy, local trading agency, and necessary finance are agents and diplomats on these agencies and embassies. The next one, maintenance of trading posts. Similarly, beside the embassy, one agency founded almost everywhere. And necessary to pay the soldier. And mercenaries paid only with cash. No any other accepted by the soldier. My next guess, Venice was a rich city-state. Therefore, applied the best soldier from the Balkanic Peninsula. Which nation? Which nation was the best soldier? But from Balkanic folks. Okay, first one, Serbian. Who voted for Serbian? One. Okay, Croatian. 2, 3. Bulgarian. 1, 2. Bosnian. Macedonian. Albanian. Albanian is a winner. Albanian. Why? Albanian living in the mountain area, walking one place to other. It's a great gym. Great gym. A little bit same situation than Switzerland. I spent almost 1.5 years in Switzerland with fellowship at the beginning of my career. And for example, moving one part to other, it's a great physical therapy. Great physical therapy. And this mountain area, historically, not ideal for any form of agrarian activity. Therefore, poor country. Poor country. It's very surprising for us that Switzerland is a poor country. But it's true. Until the 20th century, until the age of great flourish of bank service, Switzerland was very, very poor country. And Switzerland became a rich country on the time of Second World War, in consequence of neutral status. Okay, but it's other story, and not by chance, in the case of Albanians, became the most important mercenaries of Venetian army, but not only. There are Turkish students, raise the hand, Turkish. Okay, in the Ottoman history, the Great Vizier, the second position of Ottoman Empire, the foreign people highest rate Albanian, not only in Venice, but even in the Ottoman Empire. The Great Vizier, the most great Vizier, if not Turkish, second one, Albanians. But look at, for example, the history, military history of France. Which background, which area came the best soldier to the French army? A small island from Mediterranean Sea. French student here? Not here. A French student, okay. A small island, the best soldier. Corse. You know the name of Bonaparte Napoleon?
Yeah.
Of course. He was a Corse. It's a barren country. No job, no work. Therefore, the people became guest worker. Who is the best paid guest worker? The mercenaries. Look at, for example, which soldier formed the bodyguards of Pope in Vatican? A Swiss halberdier. Because on the time of Renaissance age, the best soldier, one of the best soldiers, whole of Europe, Swiss halberdier. Okay, turn back to the story. Mercenary. The great richness paid for mercenary, forming embassy network, trading network, and city construction and reconstruction. And if we try to localize a commercial network of city, the core area is central zone of Northern Europe. It's Milan, Lombardy, Genoa. This is the core area. You remember, if we try to describe the economic world, there are three regions. Core area, central area, semi-peripheral area, and the peripheral area. Okay, we try to describe the age of Venice. A core area is here. It's a core area. It's a Venice, Milan, towns of Lombardy, Genoa, and Florence. A semi-peripheral area, this is the German Europe. Augsburg, Vienna, Nuremberg, Ratisbon, Regensburg, Ulm, Basel, Strasbourg, Cologne, Hamburg, Lübeck, Bruges, London, and Southampton. It's southern English ports. Okay, if we try to identify the communication axis, the most important direction of trade, we can describe one axis from coastal area of North Sea to Eastern Mediterranean Sea, and other one from Carpathian Basin. It's a peripheral area of Western peripheral area of Hungarian Kingdom until the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, as I mentioned, a sub-distributor of international trade was a German and the Jews. Each of them organized inside of the city of Venice, a compulsory segregated area. What mean? It's very awful were a leader, political and economic leader of Venice, for rivalry of sub-distributor. Therefore, each of them separated a closed district. For German, necessary to lodging in Fondaco dei Tedeschi. This is one district of Venice. And the Jews, a ghetto. Original name is a Gatter. Former time it was an industrial district. industrial district, and it's recovered for lodging. But in Venice, this is a name of district, no any other meaning. But after Venice became an international term of the segregation of Jews minority. But in Venice, no such meaning, only the name of one district. For example, like in England, the Southwark, or in France, in Paris, Arcueil. Only one district, no more. Or, as I mentioned, Ferencváros, one district of Budapest, which founded a famous Hungarian football team. No other meaning. This technology came from the caravan cities. It's a fundus applied in Arabian Peninsula. It's adaptation. I mentioned at the beginning of this slide series, one of the most important advantage of Venetian adaptability. Adaptability. Applied one Arabic innovation, fundus. Look at, for example, the situation. There is a oasis city, it's a caravan city, arrived a caravan. A local people, no information about the member of caravan. Maybe dangerous people, maybe criminal. Therefore, closed a segregated district of the city, saving the local people. But in the caravan city, maybe a criminals. Therefore, the wall saving the people arrived by caravans. Therefore, it's a segregation. Segregation and new people. Saving for local and the new people, a local for the local criminals and the local people from the arrived criminals. Okay. Look at the commercial innovation, the most important commercial innovation of Age of Venice. The first one, the first gold coin. You remember which city-state minted the first? Genoa. Genoa. The first check and bill of exchange. Florence. Artificial money. Holding companies. A small hold owner organized a company, which a community of the company able to moving large amount. Double entry bookkeeping. You know which is the double entry bookkeeping? It's unbelievable innovation. Income, expense. Recently, it's very simple. If somebody, for example, would like to learn some elementary housekeeping information, double entry bookkeeping. Income, separation of income and expense. But on that time, it was an unbelievable innovation. The Greek and the Roman civilization wasn't able to introduce. It's documented very confusely, income and expense. The Florentine trader introduced the double entry bookkeeping. It's great innovation. Recently it's simple, elementary, but on that time it was a great step. Next important innovation, maritime insurance. Maritime insurance. Somebody has a car, because you know the car insurance. Everybody pay a moderate amount, but the damages compensate from the budget of insurance. The same function in the case of maritime insurance. But very important, calculate well the rate of paying. Maritime insurance innovated Florentine trader. Unbelievable. It's a continental city, but very innovative trader lived in the continental city. First regular sailing between Flanders, it's a low country, and via Gibraltar. Genoa. And the last one, the search for direct routes to the Indies. Go west. Genoese. Unbelievable. We have documentary sources that at the end of 13th century, Captain Brothers, Vivaldi, like a musician, Vivaldi brothers in Genoa described that the right way sailing west to the Indies, to China. And who performed? Cristoforo Colombo. Which is the birthplace? Genoa. Columbus was Genoese, and the idea sailing west appeared in the documentary sources 2000 before, then performed by a Genoese 2 centuries later. Okay, and look at the first Genoa, Florence, Genoa. No Venetian innovation, no Venetian. The typical second generation enterprises behave like a second generation enterprises. Only picked the good practice, never innovated. The local people never innovated. Okay, this is the stock of exchange. It's very interesting because a stock of exchange, a bourse, it's an open air. Open air. The broker with the notes, it's walking and discussed. It's open air. No building, not necessary. If somebody living in Mediterranean Sea, not necessary. During the summer half year, no rain, almost never rain. Therefore, stock of exchange exceptionally located to the square in front of the church San Giacometto. Okay, sorry. Okay, and moreover, on the time of 14th century, it was not only the humanitarian catastrophe with 1/3 of European population died, but it was economic catastrophe. And Venetian economy was able to survive this crisis with investment of the state, but about the nature of the investment of the state, I will speak in the next lecture, but the technology was the same which applied recently on the time of crisis. Therefore, the economists learning from each other, from generation, from century to century. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention. I ask your patience for some minutes and I read the list of participants.